Today we talk about procrastination. Can it be leveraged for an effective time management strategy? Is it the battle of prioritizing over procrastinating? Trevor talks about his procrastinating tendencies, and I talk about my procrastinating tendencies. And now I tried to overturn it into a positive way to figure stuff out instead of putting stuff off. Trev, we have to do that podcast on procrastination because we mentioned it when we talked about multitasking.
Yeah, let me think about it. We definitely have to do it. Let's do it later, though.
This is when you want to be on video so you can see our faces to know, ha.
You can see our faces right now. You can see that one of us has been up bright and shiny since 4:30 a.m., is fully dressed and ready for work, and someone's barely bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Can we just do this later?
I mean, if we do it later, then that means we may forget about it, or we'll find something else to do.
Listen, I've got a lot else to do. What are you talking about?
Fit
I got
something
a
else
list
in.
of stuff that's just overwhelming. I got a lot going on.
Oh, I got a lot going on. I am so busy. Listen, I think it's true. We are busy. I don't know if anyone is feeling the stigma of the excuse of I'm so busy. It's so exhausting to hear that all the time. Everybody knows you're busy.
Listen, I want to get right to the point. I don't want to procrastinate any longer. I'd like to kind of get right to the wealth and HELLNESS segment.
Ooh.
So wealth and HELLNESS is all about profit and pleasure, right? Why are you a small business owner? You want to make an income. You want to control your own income, not be a corporate machine robot, and you want to have fun doing it. So here's my wealth and HELLNESS suggestion, because I'm a procrastinator. Here's what I figured out is a great way that I have used to overcome my procrastination with things. Any given activity that is repetitive, monotonous,
mundane,
or daunting, like, oh God, I got to go through the paperwork for my tax return.
Or there's a learning curve and you're unsure
now
about how to approach it because you have to actually do research or you have to flatten the learning curve.
Here's what I came up with as a great solution. This is my wealth and HELLNESS suggestion to you all out there. Time the activity. Time it.
There's a great free app that I kind of got turned on to. Now, I know there's a lot of time tracking tools, but just one that I found to be helpful is Clockify. It's a start and stop button. And it's a line item where you can describe the activity or the task, and then it tracks how much time it took. And it's just a simple start, green button, stop, red button, and then it's right there. So
and
it looks like a ledger.
Spreadsheet and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Linda, of course, takes my little time yourself suggestion and goes totally Star Trek. Beam me up, Scotty. I was just saying, listen, if you have to do some basic household chores and it's the kind of thing you hate doing, like getting the laundry done or preparing food or whatever, just look at the clock. Okay, it's 10:15 a.m. and look at the clock when you're done and you realize, wow, that was only 12 minutes. That wasn't that bad. That's the tool that I use, whether it's this awesome technology app that Linda's talking about or just looking at the clock and timing myself and saying, I could do that again. I think for me, that's my problem with procrastination. I've got so many things to do. I look at the time spent on some activity going, all right, I'll set it aside because it's unknown how long it's going to take me.
Well, you're talking about how you project the dauntingness of the task. So then
that's a core element.
That's
of why
the overwhelm.
I know that's why I procrastinate.
Well, that's the overwhelm. So now here's my perspective on this. And this comes from the year 2007. I was in this 3-month leadership forum about owning a business kind of thing. And you get assigned a coach. The final, we had to do a business plan and then present it in front of a group of other business owners that were advanced and part of the program as the leadership.
Presenting to your peers. Is that what you're saying?
Something like that, yes.
That's how I went to the alliteration, which I know you love.
I love that, and thank you for speeding that up for me.
You're welcome. We don't want to procrastinate. We want to get right to it.
Well, anyway, there was an assignment part of this where I was like, I don't even know what to do. And the coach was like, oh, you're a pressure player. I was like, oh, I kind of like that, but I'm not sure if it's a compliment or not, right? So this is the thing that I learned about myself after that point. We're in the country, and all right, let's just wait for that to pass.
A local state trooper.
This is what I learned about myself after that. I know this is going to sound like an excuse, but part of my procrastination is actually a meditative kind of process because I marinate to try to figure out a plan or a tactic or a strategy on how to approach it because I'm overwhelmed by it or I'm intimidated by it.
It sounds like that's your strategy, which By the way, I would call that more preparation rather than procrastination.
Yeah, but I sort of...
I mean, to me, procrastination is you just keep putting the thing off. You know you got to get it done, but you put it off. And when I say put it off, I'm like, you're not even preparing for it.
Well, there's a thing in my mind, like I have a deadline in my mind for something, and I think that's the key too. You have to either have an artificial deadline that you can honor, or you have to have a true deadline. And I would have a deadline and I would prepare on when I would attack it, knowing about the deadline. I might just like say, you know what, I'm actually not going to do this for 3 days because it's not due until next week. So
that's a good way to feel not overwhelmed by a task.
You prioritize, and here's
what I want to ask you. You said artificial deadline.
Yeah.
Do you lie to yourself? Because I think that's something that we procrastinators do. We lie to ourselves like, oh, I'll get it done. Definitely. Tomorrow morning I'm going to get up.
Yeah.
I'm going to get up early.
You're very guilty of that.
Get it done. I feel the bus rolling over my head right now.
Well, listen, it's accountability kind of thing. All of us have our little strategies. And what are your strategies is you do give yourself an artificial deadline. That's why I kind of said, without saying it, but alluding to it, but not directly to you, is you have to honor it.
Yeah.
You have to honor it.
My problem is, and it's going to sound like an excuse. I know it's going to sound like an excuse because you call me out on this response all the time, telling me it sounds like an excuse. But with our business that we have right now doing the Small Business Administration disaster loans for COVID, I just have too many things to do. And I create deadlines that I want to aspire to. And then there's a massively chaotic aspect to what I do.
But it is an excuse. But this is the other thing that happens. There's a consequence. And that's the thing that has to be faced also as a responsible business owning adult, that you have to just own the consequences of someone is going to complain. So you can't complain about it because you knew. And
that's the thing you call me out on.
I do, because that's very frustrating to me, because there are tasks where it's like, all right, well, not that you want to jump at every single time if somebody doesn't really deserve attention because different reasons. You just have to be prepared for the consequences if you are not addressing something that you are responsible for that could have consequences, is what I'm saying.
So we started out with our Wealth and HELLNESS segment, and let me conclude our podcast by kind of leading to what you just said about consequences. It is entirely possible that procrastination not only fails to recognize the consequences, but potentially is afraid of the consequences. There's a fear of the consequences.
Oh, yeah.
That feeds into, it's like a feedback loop on the other end of it, which is the beginning of when you're supposed to do something.
That's really interesting. I love the psychology of that, which awareness is the first step kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're fearful of the consequence, that could be that artificial kind of gold deadline or whatever to set up a plan, a schedule, or a plan for how you're going to tackle the task that is creating the overwhelm, that is putting it off because you are afraid of the consequence.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Was that Winston Churchill? I don't remember. But if you can recognize that, so maybe this is like our second Wealth and HELLNESS segment of the show.
Okay.
If you can recognize
double
the
down,
fear,
baby.
Acknowledge it and embrace it, and basically say, I'm going to ignore it. Because really, being worried about something, you have no control over what a consequence could be. But you know what you have control over? Your ability to set aside anxiety and worry.
Well,
and fear.
It's plain and simple. Your reaction or your response is the only thing you can control if you are going to procrastinate. So if you're going to procrastinate and there are consequences and you took the route of the not doing.
Because you're afraid.
And then the consequence occurs that is even worse, then you're going to have to react and manage the situation. Yeah. You've got to think through to that worst case scenario.
Task that you're procrastinating on is going to result in something that's going to be potentially painful. Like you have to fire somebody.
Right.
To go to an IRS audit. And that can be very stressful. But delaying it, procrastinating it, isn't going to make that get any better.
Right.
The only thing that makes it better is not procrastinating. So without further ado,
what are you procrastinating about? We would love to hear some of the things that you must attend to when you run a business that you procrastinate. And, what happens? Have you had occurrences where you procrastinated and there was a horrible consequence? I mean, for me, the whole banking thing and reconciling, and then the terrible consequences,
That's something
taxes.
You've gotten a lot better with, though.
I've gotten a lot better with it. Well, our business has gotten bigger, so it's almost ironic that I've gotten better even though the business is bigger.
So yeah, let's hear from you.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to Simple Sense for Small Business. I'm not going to delay this any further, and I'm just going to say, I think, Linda Ray, you're pretty amazing.
You're pretty amazing too, Trevor. Thank you for joining us for Simple Sense for Small Business, where banter about mistakes we've made so you don't have to. See you next time.